Hi, everybody. So basically what I'm going to do with this stream is I'm just going to play from where I left off with my current Tomb Raider 3 playthrough on the remastered version. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to play a little bit of 3, and while I'm playing a little bit of 3, I'm going to just go into what I've played of the remaster so far and what I've experienced so far and my certain thoughts on certain things about the remasters. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun. This room's a little less green than it was in the original. So the first thing is I played all the way through Tomb Raider 1, the remastered version of Tomb Raider 1. Um, and it was actually pretty good for the most part. Every once in a while I would find a room that would be not as good as it was in the original in terms of maybe how I liked how the textures looked or how I liked some of the curated lighting, but I think for the most part it was a really good remaster. I think it starts to get a little more subjective once you start getting into Tomb Raider 2 and 3, because they're the ones that really had like they really had the lighting system to work with. And I suppose that's the first major thing to talk about in Tomb Raider 1 is that in my video on Tomb Raider 3 I mentioned briefly that Tomb Raider 1 didn't really have that much of a lighting system. There was a couple areas here and there where they sort of added in a bit of darkness and stuff like that, but the original version of the game was pretty flat. Like, it didn't really have a whole lot going on in terms of its lighting. And this one, I haven't played a whole lot of 3 yet, but the main difference between, like, the most noticeable difference between the original Tomb Raider 1 and the remastered Tomb Raider 1 is that it has like a full lighting system now. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword because on one hand, a lot of the lighting is actually really good. I was actually really impressed by how they did some of the lighting. Like, It has some really good colored lighting choices, especially in the later sections of the game. Um, with the opening Peru section with the snow, there's a couple standout moments, like the Lost Valley where you first find the dinosaurs. Is you can definitely tell was like a focus for them, and just some because they finally added a skybox. They show it off in all the trailers. Because in the original version of the Lost Valley, they didn't really have like a skybox. It was just like a black sky, which led a lot of people to believe that it was just the entire area took place inside of a big cave. And in that way, it sort of realizes some of the things they couldn't do in the original Tomb Raider. But because there was a lighting system, like a dedicated lighting system, shit. I suppose that's one very minor complaint I have about this version of the game, is that it's very easy to load your game instead of save your game, because the screens look exactly the same, and like it's a very small gripe, but like there's been like at least half a dozen times where I sort of end up loading a save like 10 minutes back instead of saving, and it kind of got on my nerves a little bit, but that's more just like a small nitpick than anything. Every game now has the system that was used in Tomb Raider 2, where you can save whenever you want. And at first I was like, I don't know, it kind of takes away from some of the challenge. But I started learning about what they had added for like the New Game Plus modes. And from what I've heard, the New Game Plus modes are actually like really cool, and they actually keep in a lot of the stuff that the original PlayStation versions had. Cause yeah, in the base like Tomb Raider Remastered, in all of the games, that they have like the immediate like manual save, but with the New Game Plus modes that they added in, they bring back the crystal saving systems, as well as making certain things harder, from what I've heard, or just sort of making certain things. There's apparently not really a whole lot of health packs in New Game Plus. They replace a lot of it with ammo. So I think eventually I would be interested in doing like a New Game Plus run of one of these games, because like one of my biggest worries with these remasters is that they weren't gonna add a whole lot of like extra content or like bonus content. But I'm really glad to hear that that's not the case. They really went out of their way to add, like, you can get more worth out of this game for $35 than you can with most like $80 games. Because not only does this version come with the expansions for each of the 3 original Tomb Raider games, it also comes with these sort of new Game Plus modes, as well as the sort of switcher to switch back in between the new and old graphics. I'm not too familiar, because I think there's a few remasters that have done that over the years. I think one of the Halo remasters did that, where you could like toggle between the old and the new graphics, just to sort of get a one-to-one comparison. And it's really good for things like this, where for people who really want to do a side-by-side. Because it's all there for you. Alright, I'm actually going to try to save this time. But yeah, I went through Tomb Raider 1. Went through the entirety of Tomb Raider 1. And yeah, the fact that they had added a lighting system is really cool. Well, you were kind of expecting them to do it anyways, but I suppose it opens the door for another possible problem, is that, you know, Tomb Raider 2 and 3, they had their own lighting systems, and to help with this, they also gave you like the flare items. But in the Tomb Raider 1 remaster, they kept the game pretty much like a one-to-one version of the game from the original. So even though they added the lighting, there's nothing to stop you from sort of getting lost in some of the darker areas. There were a couple situations later on in the game where I essentially had to switch back to the original graphics because I kept getting like stuck, or I kept like running into fucking walls because I was so used to like the game not having lighting. And that's probably my biggest like major complaint with the Tomb Raider 1 remaster, is that they could have easily added like a couple flare items here and there, but it's not a major complaint. I decided to skip over Tomb Raider 2 because I had just finished up a playthrough of it recently on the channel. So I sort of skipped ahead and started playing through 3. So far, I'm kind of mixed on 3. Because on one hand, yeah, they added more foliage. There's a couple segments in the jungle segment at the beginning that have some really, really good like foliage that they added. But there's also like certain areas where they sort of alter the lighting and the saturation. And as somebody who thinks that's probably the strongest point of the original version of the game, it can be a little frustrating to have that sort of screwed around with. But aside from that, I'm not experiencing any like major problems with the you know what, I suppose the other issue I have with the Tomb Raider remasters is that with the original games, they you know, they had their own, they were kind of their own games when it came to, like, you can definitely tell they're sort of running on the same engine, but there were enough tweaks and changes to each engine across each game in terms of like the older games, where you could really tell there were some visual differences between the games in terms of like how the engine ran certain things or presented certain things. But with the remasters, even though a lot of it does look pretty good, you can definitely tell that each of the 3 games remastered runs on the exact same engine. And while in some cases it adds to the sort of effect of you sort of experiencing these games in like full HD with like really high quality textures, and you know they redid all the textures. They redrew all the textures. They up-resed them to make them look a lot clearer. And a lot of it does look really good, but there's a couple cases where it does look a little worse. I think in terms of the water, it can look a little hit or miss, because in the original Tomb Raider 3 they often had like different textures for different kinds of water in the game. But in this one, since it all runs on the same engine, the water across all the games looks a bit samey. They do a little bit to change up the coloring of the water and stuff like that. But you can definitely tell it's the same water texture for all of the games. And for the most part, I think that's a negative. Just because it kind of hinders some of the visual design. They didn't do too much changing up with the sound work. I am a little disappointed because, like, even though they did clean up some of the sounds, not necessarily in the older games, but in Tomb Raider 3, it does sound clearer, but some of the more subtle audio effects have been removed. The echo effect that was sometimes used in these sort of cave or temple areas has been reduced or removed, so it's kind of a uniform sound. And I was a little disappointed with that. I think they could have kept that in. Not the hugest fan of how the particle effects work in this game. With the flares, there's a couple earlier on in Tomb Raider 1 that I was actually surprised with, like pleasantly surprised, because they added certain particle effects for certain events or pieces of machinery and stuff like that, where in the original it was just literally just like a model moving from left to right, or maybe a door opening. But in the remastered version, they kind of add a little more spice to it in that regard, where it doesn't just look like a 3D model moving across the floor or something. So it does look a bit better in that regard. But yeah, not a massive fan of how some of the particle effects look, especially in 3. I've only gotten a couple levels in, so I'm gonna reserve judgment until I play through more of the game. But as of right now, the sort of uniformity of it is a little bit of a turn-off. I think the main appeal for me with the remastered collection was the expansions. you were really only able to play the expansions if you owned a PC version of the game, and even then, it was a pretty limited release when it came out, so to have a more dedicated release of those expansions is actually a pretty big deal. Um, let's see if I can try to do this room. I fucking hate this room. Yeah, I'm really excited to get into the expansions, because I honestly heard a lot of it was better than some of the levels in the base game. Especially with the expansions for Tomb Raider 2 and 3. I'm like super excited to get into those. But I've mainly just been doing everything in sequence. I've started with Tomb Raider 1, and then I'm currently doing the expansion for Tomb Raider 1. And that one's pretty good. It's more of just like a direct follow-up of what happens at the end of Tomb Raider 1. But yeah, that's been pretty fun so far. Definitely going to be doing all the expansions. I do like how they did some of the transparent textures in Tomb Raider 3. I'm really excited to see what they do with the stuff in Nevada or London or like Antarctica later on once you get to the encampments. Because this is like a direct improvement. This is kind of one of the main things I was super excited for when it came to the remastered graphics of 3, is how they would address some of the intricacies of like some of the designs, some of the little bits and pieces in the environment. And I'm super excited to see what they do with that. They I know as soon as I started the game, they set up with a disclaimer that was basically like, there are certain bits later on in the Tomb Raider games that have like racial insensitivity and racist stereotypes. And you know, I knew they would have to put something like that, because it would be a little more alarming if they had just like kept the game as it is without a warning. Like, I obviously didn't want them to censor anything, but adding a very clear warning at the beginning was like the right move, in my opinion, because like there's a lot about Tomb Raider 3 that is not good, but I think for the sake of preserving the original state of the game, the disclaimer is really important. Yeah, I really like how they sort of increase the detail on a lot of these textures to the point where there are certain bits in Tomb Raider 1, because like back then, even in like 1996, like the original graphics for Tomb Raider 1, it was sometimes hard to tell like what they're trying to do with some of the textures, with some of the murals and stuff like that. But with the way they redrew the textures, it's actually like really good, and I'm really happy with how they handled the texture work in these games. Yeah, at first, going back to the whole New Game Plus thing, I was a little worried, because like I knew they were probably not going to keep the like the crystal saving system from this game, because it is like it can be kind of overly stressful and nerve-wracking, but I am really glad that they kept certain things in for New Game Plus. You're really not getting a situation where you're getting less content than in the original. Less content or less like gameplay mechanics than the original like PS1 versions. You're pretty much getting the entire package and then some with this remaster. You can definitely tell that I think they're basing the a lot of the classic one with how the PC ran the original version, because there is a little less saturation in terms of the color work, even when moving back to the original like side-by-side comparison stuff. But I do like these little touches because we're dealing with more naturalistic lighting. They do add like little light shafts and stuff like that, just to make certain areas feel a little more believable without taking away too much from the original design. I keep forgetting you can save whenever you want in this game. It's such a habit from the original Tomb Raider 3, where I'm just like, I have to save every 15 to 30 minutes or else I'm like, I'm not saving. But in this version, you can save whenever you want. I do kind of wish there was a version, kind of like the classic Resident Evil games, where it kind of ranks you on how many times you've saved. And maybe there's like extra bonuses for, or like bonus content for folks who manage to get through the game within a certain amount of saves and stuff like that. But shit, I don't know if I'm gonna make this. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm done. Shit. Oh, yeah, going back to Tomb Raider 1, just some basic changes. The cutscenes, like the FMV cutscenes, I think they use some sort of program to upscale the original cutscenes. There's less like pixelation, and they also added subtitles because there's a couple minor sections in each Tomb Raider game where it isn't 100% clear on what the character's saying. Like, there's a lot of quotable lines, but some of them can be a little, like, hard to hear or hard to parse because, like, there weren't any subtitles available. But in this game, yeah, everything has subtitles. And one thing that's actually really cool that was never in the original is that in the in-engine cutscenes of the game, there's actual like voice along with, because in the original Tomb Raider games, you would, whenever you got into an in-engine cutscene, whenever somebody talked, it would just be like sort of head bobbing whenever somebody was talking, kind of like the original MGS1, where it was just like a bunch of like Minecraft ass faces just like bobbing up and down whenever somebody was talking. But in these versions of the game, it's actually quite special because they do mouth movements. They animated like complete mouth movements into the game. Shit. So yeah, every single cutscene, like in-engine cutscene now, has like full-on mouth movements. And it's super cool. Because it adds a bit of detail that was never really in the original games. That they never really could do in the original games because of the graphical limitations, but there are a couple situations where some of the graphics look a bit funny for the mouth movements. Some of the characters kind of look a little deranged. But overall, it's actually kind of really, really cool. That's one of the things I really liked about the differences between the remastered version and the original, was just like how every cutscene now has like mouth movements. Yeah, I'm really excited to get to some of the cutscenes in this game. Like, not some of the cutscenes in the midsection for obvious reasons, because I'm just like, God, I fucking hate some of the levels in the South Pacific Islands, but it is going to be interesting to see how they animate some of it, because that's always been like a thing of like whether or not you should do that or not, but like I am interested to see how they handle some of those animations. I was 100% convinced once I saw these save crystals that there was going to be some kind of, if they weren't going to let you save with them, there was going to be some kind of like bonus system where you could cash them in for different rewards or something. But they left that mechanic for New Game Plus, which I really like, and I did hear they fixed some of the major gripes people had with Tomb Raider 3 in terms of its gameplay. I heard somewhere that the Nevada section no longer has like the whole thing where they permanently take away your ammunition. They actually let you keep some of it. So I am gonna, I am like super interested to see how that rebalances the game. You're definitely going to have a lot more freedom in terms of what weapons you can use at certain points in the game. And there's going to be a lot less pressure to just like ignore some of the items in the first third of the game. I do miss how green this room looked. Yeah, I think for this, like the base Tomb Raider 3 game, I'm excited the most to see how they remaster um, London. Well, mostly just like the later parts of the game. I'm super interested to see how they remaster this game. Um, there's probably going to be a couple areas where I'm like, oh, I prefer to how they did the lighting in the original. Um, because in terms of lighting, the third Tomb Raider game was definitely the most complex when it came to stuff like that. In terms of like colored lighting and stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to be a little more nitpicky with this game than when with like the first one. Oh, bosses now have health bars now. That's a big change. And I kind of like it because in the original, even though like some of the bosses are a little easy, in the original, it is good to like have a gauge of whether like how much damage your weapons are doing, and stuff like that. Because in the original, you really didn't have those like direct numbers. I'm sure a lot of people who've played the game for like a super long time and super thoroughly have sort of gauged how much damage each weapon does for each enemy and stuff like that, but to have like health bars on some of the boss enemies is really good for like telling how much damage you're actually doing to them with each of your weapons. I suppose another issue I have with the remasters is that the because they're all using the same models for specific guns for each game, um, Tomb Raider 3, since it had a lot of different models, like gun models, than the previous games, um, it's not able to shine in the same way as it did in the original. Like this was a different looking shotgun in the original version of Tomb Raider 3. But now it just looks like the shotgun from Tomb Raider 1 and 2. And, you know, it's not a huge issue. I don't have any, like... It's not, like, a deal breaker or anything, obviously, but it is a small, like, aesthetic problem I have with it, which is really what I'm judging these remasters on. Like, obviously you get stuff like increased performance and the games run flawlessly. It's kind of to be expected with games these old, that are this old. I mean, so performance is like A+ across the board. But again, that's to be expected. Yeah, the sound has definitely been cleaned up the most in Tomb Raider 3. They didn't really... I'm honestly glad that they didn't change any of the sound work in the first two, because, like, I was gonna mention in my Tomb Raider 3 video that, because, like, Tomb Raider 1 has some very, very bit-crushed noises, and as well as Tomb Raider 2. But I think the types of sound effects they used in Tomb Raider 2 are so good. Like, the sound work in that game, even though it is, like, pretty crude, like, I remember pretty much every sound effect in that game because of how cool a lot of the sound work is in that game. Like, all the guns sound really good, and, like, all the little mechanisms and traps and different pitfalls and stuff like that, they all sound, like, really unique. So I'm glad they didn't do too much in, like, fixing, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, with the sound work. They did remove, like, a little bit of the bit crushing as much as they could, which again is to be expected, but this is a weird puzzle. That's one thing I really appreciate in Tomb Raider in this version of Tomb Raider 3 is that in the original PS1 version, the items were actually really hard to see. And it was kind of frustrating because in the first two games, even in the original PS1 version, they changed some... They didn't... they were all very easy to see, like, the items. They were all kind of highlighted. They're basically just these flat little JPEG things that you could find. And you could find them, like, perfectly in the dark and stuff like that. I'm glad they added that in. There's a couple moves from Tomb Raider 4 that they actually added into Tomb Raider 3, which I actually kind of like. Just certain quality of life things. I think with... Yeah, there's some, like, weird little specific moves you can do in every game, but I am glad they added a couple of the quality of life things from 4. Well, they did a good job with this room, actually. I don't mind it too much. I'm so glad they kept the light shafts in. Like, those, like, these, like, fake-ass light shafts that were in the original game, I love to death, so I am glad they kept that in. The old jump and shoot. I never liked how long it took to kill these guys. Like, that stupid block move they do is kind of annoying. I am interested to see if they change any of the vehicle controls. I don't think they're gonna mess with it too much, but they might change some things when it comes to the animation work. I'm not 100% sure. But the animation work on the original vehicles were kind of janky. I'm definitely gonna be able to get to the quad bike section in this stream, so we can see together how they do it. Oh, good. They kept some of that blue lighting. Not as good as the original, but there was an attempt. I do love this like blue corner. This is like one of my favorite rooms in the game. I suppose that's the issue of like trying to remaster these games with a little more naturalistic lighting, is that some of the weirdly specific lighting choices of 3 kind of get removed in a way, because look at this. This is what the original room looks like here, but this is kind of like what it looks like in the remastered. And this was one of my biggest like anxieties when it came to the remasters, is like, how are they going to deal with the colored lighting in Tomb Raider 3? And I think I'm still going to hold my breath on a lot of it, because like I've only played the first few levels. But it is going to be interesting to do a side by side with some of the rooms later on. Shit. Well, I suppose it's a good thing I just saved. Shit. Yeah, because like, this room actually looks pretty good. Yeah, I think they are working off more of the you can definitely tell the quote unquote like original version they're working with in the remastered version is slightly different. You can definitely tell it's like it's the old game running on a slightly new engine kind of thing. Where some of the really minute like lighting choices aren't fully there from the PS1 original, but it's mostly like what it is. I think it mostly does the job. Alright, let's see how they do this cutscene. This cutscene always, like, is really confusing. 'Cause, like, if you look closely at, like, the models and stuff, you see the first stone, like, embedded into his chest. And that's supposed to be, like, giving him the weird, like, psychic powers. But the game doesn't really do that good of a job, like, explaining that to you. Oh, wow. I do like some of the skyboxes in this version. Not bad. Oh yeah, that's one thing I actually really like is for all three of these remasters, whenever you pick something up, it does like a full 360 sort of it shows you what the item is, sort of spins it around. And that was an effect they started using in Tomb Raider 4. Which is a really nice touch I always liked in that game. I don't know if I'll ever cover like Tomb Raider 4. It kind of dips in quality halfway through. Okay, so it feels like the car, like sort of the it does feel like the quad bike controls slightly smoother than it did in the original. The animation work in the original for the quad bike was like really janky. It kind of like jostled around a bunch, but I think they fixed that for the most part here. Shit. In some weird way, I am kind of glad that they kept a lot of the darkness of the game's lighting. I was kind of worried they were going to lighten it up a little too much, but if anything, it's slightly darker in certain areas. I love how instantaneous the loading is. Like, I know that was gonna be like a thing from the start. Like, it's a new game. It's running much older games on a new engine. It's gonna be loading a lot faster. But I really do appreciate it. It minimizes the sting of some of the some of the errors you can make. These snakes. You know what? I'll see in this stream. I'll see if I can get to the entirety, like the entire end of the India segment. I think I can definitely do that. Shit. Shit. It's all going swell, sir. I am going to be interested to see how they handle the waterfall at the end of this level. That was always a kind of a highlight of this level in the original. That I always love that. I didn't really mention that in the original Tomb Raider 3 review, but when an enemy dies in this game, they sort of do this thing where their corpse just like spurts out a bunch of blood. It's like really weird, but it's kind of a charm of the game, I guess. Ugh. Here we go. Oh shit. It is interesting because, like, it's kind of a double-edged sword because they don't appear for as long as they do in the original, but they essentially remastered all of the loading screens. It all has like new art. It's kind of updated, and for the most part, some of them they all look pretty good. There's a couple here and there where it almost looks like looks like they use some sort of AI program to help with the art, and I genuinely hope they did not use AI art to help with it, because, like, fucking shame on them. But I don't know. For the most part, they look really, really good. They've got a nice, clean image to them. shit. I actually don't want to go this way. I kind of hate going this way. That's one cool thing about this level. In the original in Tomb Raider 3 in this level, you kind of have a choice of two routes to take across the river. And I never really figured out how to do one specific one of them where it's kind of like this weird, almost like a maze thing. But the fact that there is like two pathways in this level, because it is like a shorter level, but I never really got the hang of the second route, so I always go the one that's easier. I think there's more items in the second route, but it's harder to navigate. You have to keep track of your quad bike a lot more, because there's more like on-foot segments. Quad bike is slippery as usual. Alright, I'm gonna save here. There's no fucking around. It makes the quad bike a little easier to control in this version because there's slightly less, like, I wouldn't necessarily say like input lag, or like the smoothness of the controls feels slightly better in this version. Ooh, I do not like the look of this room. I think the original version is better in this case. I think they're trying to go for, it's like, oh, it looks stormier, you're getting later on in the day and it's getting stormier. But I don't know. Again, it's very give and take with a lot of the remastered choices. And it's not going to matter to a lot of the folks that are playing it, especially for the first time. That's one thing I really like, especially in the jungle segments of this game, is that you can see like a clear difference in the amount of foliage they put on the ground. And that's kind of been a constant improvement throughout all of the remasters I've played so far, where there's a lot of like moving foliage. Whereas in the original it kind of just looks like a green stain on the floor. This one actually looks like what they're trying to go for. Wow, this actually looks really cool. I really like how they added a lot of this foliage. It was really noticeable in the jungle segment, like in the starting jungle segment. Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. Insta-kill. Oh, I think this is the waterfall. Let's see how quickly we can get into this cave and kill the troubled researcher. Oh my god. Birds! Okay. Don't entirely know what to think about this room compared to the original. Kind of like how the original looked better in this case. Again, like it's such a give and take because like certain aspects look better and certain aspects look worse. You know what? I'll get those items over there. Ooh, I never noticed this. That's a good thing about the remasters, is how all the items are actually visible now. There's no confusion. It especially helps when it comes to stuff like keys. It's okay. Kind of like the original more in this case. Whoa, look at that. There's like a graphical glitch going on here. That was not in the original. Ugh, kind of creepy. Alright, let's see how they do the caves level. Ooh, this actually looks pretty good. Hopefully I don't get stuck in this maze. I'll take that. Nice. I think I got past the first segment. Yeah, I do think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity that they don't rank your saves. Just because, like, you know, you're able to save whenever you want now. There could have easily been a system where it, like obviously you get a stat screen at the end, but it would have been really fun. Maybe there are some achievements, like some basic achievements that you can get for clearing the game under a certain amount of saves or something, but it would have been interesting to get some extra game modes or modifiers in some way, kind of like how Uncharted does it. That's one of my favorite aspects of the Uncharted games, is like, depending on how many secrets you find, it gives you more like bonus currency in order to unlock certain gameplay modifiers or skins and stuff like that. It's fun just to do the back and forth sometimes to see how much they added in. Oh, I guess I went in a circle or something. This is a really interesting level, because it can either take you a really short time, like 10 minutes or so, but because it's a maze, it depends almost entirely on like whether or not you find the right route. Get me out of here. Let's try this way. Here we go. The pit of snakes. Get away! Oh, they're kind of cute looking. They made him look kind of cute in this version. It's a bit harder for them to hit you in this version. Right. I'm interested to see how they design this boss arena. Nice. I do still kind of like the original design of this room a little better, because like it's this weird, like, harsh lighting. Oh boy, get ready for goofy ass cutscenes. Ooh, that's kind of cool.
I don't want to be misrepresented by that retarded research I've just been with.
Lara.
I'm Dr. Willard. I'd come to converse with Tony myself, but I saw you were doing a rather more creditable job, I think. Indeed, I'm inspired. I'd like to offer you other work.
What? Shoot the breeze with some of your other boys? No thanks.
Fortunately, they were the only lab rats we let loose into the field. No. My request is for 3 other artifacts like this.
The Infada tribe only had one artifact of this type. It's unique. Anyway, what would your interest in it be?
I'll show you. It's not from India, rather an island near Antarctica. It is in fact meteorite rock that has been fashioned and used by Polynesians who were once settled there many, many years ago. See that? That's unique. An unknown material.
So how did it end up here?
Formed from the planets, sculpted by Polynesians, distributed by goons. Our excavations and investigations have led us to this. A sailor's diary from Charles Darwin's expedition on the HMS Beagle.
August 14th, 1834.
This voyage is getting too boring for me to go on with this journal. Me adventures at sea are an embarrassment. The only tales I'll have to tell are hours of bird watching, picking and pressing flowers.
It's weird to see this cutscene look slightly better than it does in the original.
But this don't even concern me now. I just want food. Something more than vegetable broth in me. Today we 5 have made a pact. The only sampling we're going to be doing is for meat. Pure, solid, blood-rich meat.
Wow. Yeah, they use some kind of upscaling program for this. I'm deadly sure of that.
The snow's run out. The tracks have gone.
Just keep going. We're on its trail.
It still looks goofy as fuck.
There's something here.
Look, another one. What do you reckon they're worth? Too late. There's only 4. None for you.
What an asshole.
Nobody better say nothing about this to the governor, else we'll be back having to hunt down that creature for his samples. Paul fell down a crevasse, okay?
Okay, Stephen.
Question mark.
Stephen was to be the only survivor of the 4. When he arrived back in London, he superstitiously sold off his artifact, having seen his pals murdered or killed with theirs. One here in India, one in the South Pacific, and one in Nevada. The places where I'd like you to go.
Sounds good to me.
Ooh, they made the Earth look a little cooler in this version. I'm probably just gonna go with Nevada again. I don't think they take all your weapons away permanently in this version, but like I'm still kind of wary about it. Ooh. Whoa, this one actually looks kind of good. That's nice. The beds. It's actually a really nice skybox. Skyboxes in general in the remastered version are like a lot better. Yeah, this so far this looks better than the original. Whoa. That looks really good. Alright, alright. You're cooking Tomb Raider 3. Let's see how they do the flyby. Oh, they changed the sound effect. Oh, they fixed the sting. That's, you know what, that's probably for the best. It was really awkward in the original. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Like I'm pretty satisfied with how they're doing Nevada so far. Oh, I like this. It's a little more naturalistic looking, but I like it. Kind of like how the this room looks better in the original. Just a little bit. But that's just me. One issue I had with Tomb Raider 1, I don't know if it's going to be like a constant issue throughout all of the games, is that in the original version of the game, a lot of the keys were like of Tomb Raider 1, a lot of the keys were like unrealistically large, and they're sort of highlighted in a way where you could see them. But in this version, if you don't have like the context markers on, and I had to turn those off just because they kind of annoyed me, but the remasters do come with an option for like context markers. So whenever you can interact with something, there's like a little exclamation mark that appears over your head. And I thought it would be like a really good idea to turn that off, just because I'm pretty familiar with how the games work, but I wasn't aware that they actually made a lot of the keys. They made the keys like actual size to what they were actually supposed to be, and it obviously works for like realism and stuff, but it also kind of sucks if you don't have those like context clues already highlighted, because there were so many points where I just had to like revert back to the original version in order to see some of the keys. I was like, I remember there being a key here, and I was like, oh yeah, there is one. It's just hard to see because they wanted to make it look a little more realistically sized and proportioned, so that's really only an issue if you don't have the context clues on, but I kind of decided to turn those off, so... This looks nice. I might be completely going off my rocker, but it does feel like the climbing animations are slightly faster compared to the original. But you know what? They might be exactly the same. It might just be the smoothness of the frame rate. But I did notice that the crawling in crawl spaces was slightly faster. And I do appreciate that a lot, because like it doesn't really take away from the experience of the game, and it makes certain bits a little more bearable to get through. I was a little disappointed that you couldn't unlock, like, original concept art, but I know every once in a while you'd come across a piece of concept art that's kind of sus. I know I pointed that out a little bit in the video, but it would have been interesting to see certain bits then versus now, kind of a thing. Or if they did any concept art for like this remastered version of how they wanted certain textures to look. I'm not entirely sure. I'll reserve judgment until I get around this corner, but I'm not liking how it looks so far. Kind of like how this hallway looks in the original better. I know I talked a little bit about it, how the the water makes these like little lighting effects on the walls, and I really like how it looks. Looks kind of flat here. Yeah, I again, it's very give and take, because like I think this room looks a lot better in the original. Again, you can really see how they only use like one type of water texture in the remaster here, and how that kind of hinders away from the original aesthetics. I think this remastered is also like, it serves as a really good way for people to play the original versions of the game, because, you know, not everybody grew up with a PlayStation or like a computer to run these games, so I am really glad it's getting like a nice wide release, because like the last thing you want to see happen with a lot of video games is for them to be locked on like a specific console or two. Like I want nothing more in this world than for people to experience like as many video games as they can that's worth playing. And sort of limiting them to like one or two consoles kind of sucks in a lot of cases. I want video games to be available for everybody, like the same way somebody can pick up a fucking DVD and just play it on like whatever player they have. Same kind of thing that I want, that I've always wanted for video games. I'm gonna be talking about it a little bit with the upcoming Sly Cooper retrospective, but I think games preservation is so fucking important. I do kind of like these light shafts. Again, in the original, it's just kind of not there, and I really appreciate a lot of the points in these games where they take the time to model new things, like these cracks and openings in the level design, where it would be logical to see more naturalistic lighting peek through. Again, it's a double-edged sword with a lot of these remastered choices. It's like random biker dudes. I never understood what they were supposed to be. I know at the end of this level, one of the MPs mentioned something about like eco-terrorism. I don't know if they were gonna like make that more of a thing, or they like cut it in the original version or something. But again, there's not really a lot of reasons for you to fight a lot of the enemies in this game. And that's one of the major issues overall. Like, it obviously becomes much more of a serious issue when it comes to places like South Pacific Islands and stuff, but it's a problem that's like spread across the entire game. Ugh. This room kind of looks good. I do like the light flooding in through the side there. Man, I really fucking miss the fucking... I kind of wish they would have done a little more effort when it came to the water. Shit's a bit poor, honestly. Because, like, for the most part, I'm glad with what they did for the stuff regarding the remasters, but I think the waters need some work. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to beat this level, and once I get into the high security compound, I'm gonna be checking to see whether or not people were right about them not taking away your ammo. And then I'll call it a stream. I didn't want to make this like super long of a stream, I just wanted to do some basic talking points and stuff like that, but for the most part, I'm really enjoying these remasters. You can definitely tell why they put the context markers in. Like, I obviously have them off, but there's a lot of things that were really hard to see in the original version. And this remaster kind of stays close to that and making you not able to see pretty much some of the keys and switches. So I can completely understand why they put those like context sensitive things there. Oh shit. Huh? Oh, here we go. I knew it was missing one switch. This looks pretty good. I'm kind of half and half on the the moving water textures, because I think there's a kind of artistry to the originals that can be a little hard to capture with the new graphics, but I think for the most part it looks okay. Like, I think I still prefer the original graphics in this area, but that might just be like a personal preference. Oops. Oh, whatever. Nothing too major. I like how they did this room. Again, it's fun to see like what they get right and what they don't. Well, for me personally, I'm sure there's certain rooms where people think that it's done better in this version than in the original, and vice versa. Let's see. Oh, that's kind of cool. They add like a kind of crystalline structure to it. Let's see if I can make this jump. Nice. Might be able to make my way down from here instead of just going all the way around again. That would be good. Yep. Awesome. Alright. That skips a good section of it. I like in a way I am kind of sad that they didn't add Tomb Raider 4 along with this collection. Like, I can completely understand why they didn't, because if it was just Tomb Raider 4, there'd probably be some people that would get mad that Chronicles wasn't in it, and I honestly wouldn't get why they would be mad, because that game sucks. But for the first half of Tomb Raider 4, it's like arguably the best Tomb Raider game. But the second half is just fucking blows. But the aesthetic quality of Tomb Raider 4 is even better than 3, honestly. There's some areas in Tomb Raider 4 that, like, still blow me away, that still look really good, even though it's like PS1 graphics. What they could do with like stylized areas and stuff like that. It's a little more open than the original trilogy. The level design actually reminds me a little bit of Half-Life. How you go into certain areas and it can like load the next segment of the level kind of thing. Because the levels in general, once you like sort of discount those loading screens, are like the largest levels in the franchise. But whether it's in here or not, you're definitely getting your money's worth with this game. Like, I'm definitely happy with the amount of content that's actually in this game. This is cool. Okay, yeah. I actually dig how they designed this thing in terms of the lighting. Not bad. Again, there's these really subtle like gradients of colored lighting here that I think is kind of lost in the remaster. You know what I mean? You can see it here, where like there's this sort of burgundy section here and this sort of teal corridor here, but in the remaster it sort of blends it together. I actually like how this... So far the Nevada section is winning me over. I'm interested to see how they do how they make the high security compound look. Yeah, a lot of this looks better. I'm very glad. Huh? It's ironic because the original version is a little brighter in this scene. I never realized there was one there. Yeah, I think for the most part this version, this level has been done better in the remaster. I know I'm missing something here, I just can't remember what. There's like some entrance to an area here. There we go. Nice. Oh, I'm excited. We're nearing our first interior section of the game. Inside this little compound here. It's interesting to see the pros and cons of having like a really fully fleshed out lighting system. Because even in Tomb Raider 3, a lot of the lighting seemed sort of pre-baked for certain areas of the game. Shit. Should have aimed a little more to the left. There we go. Ugh. Okay, this looks better. This looks like a lot better. Nice. I'm really excited to see some of the interiors later on. Shit. Oops. I forgot that bit was electrified. Whoa, dude just appeared. I suppose that is like the draw. Well, it's only a drawback if you're like really nitpicky with stuff like that, but sort of how the old-fashionedness of some of these games can sort of become a little more highlighted by the fact that it looks better and looks clearer. And I know that I kind of mentioned that when it comes to like later on, I have no idea how the fuck they're gonna do certain bits in the South Pacific Islands, but it's probably going to be a little weirder now that it's like better looking, quote unquote. It does make you notice some of the more cooler details where I never really know. Well, you can notice it in lighter areas, but I do like how there's like different quad bikes. They could have easily used the same model for the quad bike, but it's got a different texture on it. That's a big ass fucking card. I'm excited to see how they do this cutscene.
You crazy geek freak. What kind of stunt is that to pull? Let's take her in.
She don't look much like one of them. Maybe she's an eco-terrorist or something.
And they wear hot pants, huh?
Oh, maybe they don't. They certainly make the lasers easy to see. Oh. I don't know if I like how this looks. I love the cool blue lighting in the original. This is a little too sterile. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think the original looks a lot cooler in this area. Oops. Did a load. Once again, I did a load instead of a save. I think I'm going to call it right there. I didn't want this to be like a super long stream or anything, but I did want to sort of update you on my thoughts about the Tomb Raider remasters that I've experienced so far. I'm really interested to try the expansions for sure. I really like how they dealt with Tomb Raider 1 for the most part. And, you know, I'll eventually play all the game has to offer and maybe go into some of the new Game Plus stuff. But so far, I'm enjoying what they've been doing with this this remaster, even though there are some sections that I think look better in the original version. But yeah, I'm obviously still working on the Sly Cooper video that it's definitely not going to be coming out anytime soon, but it is being worked on, so don't y'all worry. But yeah, I hope you're all having a really good day. I know I am, so hopefully y'all can have a really good day too, if you can. But yeah, I'll see you later.